Hi and good afternoon. My name is Josh. Thank you for joining the Octavia Fallon Public Library for our virtual authors festival. This year's theme is visual storytelling. Our next guest is Judy Prescott Marshall. She earned a certificate in Write Your First Novel from Michigan State University. From biographies, tales of adventure, self-help, inspirational, and books on writing, she is never without a book. As a child, what delighted Judy most was reading under a shady tree, near a street lamp, or in her room with a flashlight. Not long ago, she went dumpster diving for a set of encyclopedias. To say she loves books is an understatement. Books have always been a passion, destination, and her closest friend. She still loves to hold them in her hands. She is a writer, blogger, interior designer, and a lover of the outdoors. Judy's first book, Be Strong Enough, published November 2020, offers an intimate glimpse into her thought-provoking stories of how to live your best life at any age. Judy's latest book, Still Crazy, published this year, March 2021, is a story of one woman's journey through pain, betrayal, and forgiveness, as she learns to hold onto her faith and, for the first time in her life, trust in herself. Today, Judy Prescott Marshall will be discussing her latest book, Still Crazy. You can leave questions for Judy in our Facebook comment section down below by tagging your questions with hashtag Judy Prescott Marshall. So without further ado, allow me to introduce Judy Prescott Marshall.
Josh, thank you so much. And thank you everyone at the Octavia Fallon Library for hosting today's event. It's exciting. You know, you did mention, how I went dumpster diving. And I did, to say that I love books, as you said, is an understatement. When I was growing up, I didn't go to bookstores. I hung out at my local library. So yeah, to say I love books is definitely a big part of my life. I've taken many classes to get to this journey called writing my first novel, Still Crazy. Before I wrote the novel, I'll share my journey with you. I first took some classes. Most of them were via master class. I took James Patterson's class on writing, Stephen King's, Shonda Rhimes, Sherry Ann Lewitt, Elizabeth Gilbert, and Helen Zimmerman. Helen is, by the way, a literary agent who teaches you to write, edit, get the book out there into as many hands as you can before even submitting to a literary agent. And what was great about her course was she shared all of those things that you need to do before. It's where the other folks just really taught you how to be disciplined, sit down and write your story. I did receive my certificate. After I took those classes, I continued with my learning, and I did receive the certificate from Michigan State University, as you said. From there, this is all before I started writing, I developed my marketing plan. The marketing plan was, looking at libraries, where did I want to go on book tour? What bookstores that I needed to make sure that my book got into? I followed other writers. What were they saying on social media? What were they not saying on social media? What were they doing that I needed to do? And most importantly, what were they all doing that was the same? And is that how they became best-selling writers and actually, got on the best-selling list? So I did a lot of marketing, and research with other writers. When I wrote Be Strong Enough, I formed my own organization. 100% of my net profits goes towards helping women, children, and their pets. Be Strong Enough was actually first published in 2019. It's a little book. It's short on words, but it's full of inspiration. Some pages may have just one sentence on it, but it's the message that's on each and every page that I'm hoping does inspire other women, to live their best life at any age. whether it's writing your first story or, learning to swim. There's a master class out there for everyone. There's dreams that need to be turned into goals. And that's what this did. It gave me the confidence to go ahead, sit down, be disciplined, and write the story that I wanted to write. I come to my writing studio 7 days a week. I'm in the writing studio from about 7 a.m. till 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Then I stop and I return my emails. I log on to social media, plan my marketing strategies. I don't outline my stories. However, I do use many visuals, like character worksheets. What does the character look like? How tall is the character? Typically, what does this character wear on a daily basis? What are some of the things that this character says all the time? Does this character speak in plain English? Does this character speak in slang? Is it proper English? So each and every character should have their own voice. Then I go into outlining the story, character worksheets. Then I go into plot structure. I break my scenes down by acts. In the first act of the story, I do what's called 1%, and that's where the story is told. So by there, you know that I've already introduced the plot, AKA the problem. So you know what the problem's going to be in the book. So what is it that the main character has to solve by the time you get to the end of the book? I also make sure that I introduce all of the characters to you. On the second act, I like to introduce 25% of the story by the time before I get to what's called the second half of Act 2. By then, I would have told you 50% of the story. And Act 3, 75% of the story should have been discovered. The climax arrives when the reader reads 90% of the storyline. At the 95% mark in the storyline, the reader will have read the resolution. Hence, the answer to the problem that I introduced in Act 1, usually right around Chapter 1, I introduced the problem. Finally offering the entire story and 100% answered by the time you get towards the end. I do create a timeline because for me, it's important to know, when is the story going to start? Is it spring, summer, fall, or winter? And then when the story ends, what year is it going to end? And that's where I slip in the different seasons within. Is it a 1-year-old story? Is it a 10-year-old story? So then I need to do, introduce different events if it's a longer stretch of scenes. Let's see, I create the timeline with a starting point, has a specific date and time in place. And this helps me to create memorable moments in the story, seasons, sunshine, stormy weather. My writing advice to anyone writing is do your research. Do the research before you start writing. About 2 years before I even picked up a pen or sat at the laptop to write, be strong enough. I did all the research I needed to do. I took as many classes as I could. I attended writers' conferences. Do your research. And if you say, but I can't be a writer, it's a talent that's only given to some. If you have a story within you and you want to read that story, but no one has written it yet, then you need to write that story. And that's what I did. I had a story that I wanted an answer to. No one was writing it. They touched on the plot line, but they weren't answering the big question that I had. So I wrote the story. I'll tell you a little secret. When I was in the 7th grade, my teacher inspired me to write. She called me in and said that, I'm telling a lot of stories out on the playground. And she said to me, over winter break, I want you to write a story. Well, I took that challenge, and over winter break, I wrote a story. It was a Christmas story. I came back into school, handed my story to my teacher. A couple weeks later, the drama teacher came into the classroom and said, we would like to perform your story for this year's play. And I actually got to help direct some of the story with the drama teacher. So that was a nice thrill. But I didn't catch that writing bug again until I was almost retired. So that's, my point is live your best life at any age. And it doesn't matter your education. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter your finances. Don't listen to the naysayers. If there's something that you want to do, do it. Live your best life at any age. Let's see. So when I get done doing my research, I write, pretty much the plot and the storyline out. So I kind of lay it out a little bit so I know where the story's going. I do have a character board, and on each, like 3x5 card, I write the name of the character, all their descriptions. So I know, so if I'm talking about Jane Doe, then I pull Jane's card and say, remember, she always likes to wear corduroys, or she always wears her hair up in a French twist, little things like that, which help, flow with the story. I'd like to read a couple reviews for you, if I may. The first review is from James A. Cox. He's editor-in-chief of Midwest Magazine. This review and article was actually featured in the March issue of Midwest Magazine. It says, deftly scripted by an author with a genuine flair for the kind of entertaining and narrative storytelling that will swiftly engage the reader's total attention. Deftly scripted by an author with a genuine flair. That just warmed my heart. The next one is, this cozy tribute to faith and unconditional love will appeal to hopeless romantics, great for fans of Debbie Macomber and Nicholas Sparks. To be in the same sentence with Debbie Macomber and Nicholas Sparks, I was beyond honored. That article was actually in Book Life Review, featured in the January issue of Publishers Weekly magazine. Another one, the last one for review. Still Crazy satisfies our senses and encourages us to believe in the mightiness of love and constancy of faith. Buy this book, exclamation point. And that's Sherry Daly. She's a writer, freelance editor of More Magazine, Car and Driver, and the New York Times. In the book, I have a couple of quotes in the book, Still Crazy. In fact, in the first section, the book is actually in two sections. In section 1, I give you an introduction to the first quote, and then before you go to section 2 is another quote. But these are just some of my favorite quotes. This one is Cat Stevens. It says, when two hearts are meant for each other, no distance is too far, no time is too long, and no other love can break them apart. Maya Angelou. Life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but by the moments that take our breath away. Elizabeth Edwards. She stood in the storm, and when the wind did not blow her way, she adjusted her sails. And my favorite one of all is by Robert Mueller. To forgive is the highest, most beautiful form of love. In return, you will receive untold peace and happiness. When I was growing up, as we said, I was never without a book. I always had books in my life. So to end up and say that this was my destination, my calling to write this story, I am so proud to be the author of Still Crazy. When I talked to my literary agent and I said, okay, so the book is done, now what? She said, well, you need to write a sequel. So I wrote the sequel. The sequel is called The Inn in Rhode Island. She read the sequel, and now my literary agent says we should write a series. Instead of just being a sequel, just being 2, we should now write a series, because there are so many characters in the book. And there are a lot of characters in the book. And speaking of characters, I actually used, for all except the 2 main characters, the protagonist and the antagonist, Julie and Dan Holliday, all of the other characters are people and individuals, family, friends that I know. As a new writer, I wanted to see their faces. I wanted to, hear and see and know their reactions to certain things. So, like Lene in the story is the character that everyone just wants to hang out with and, tell all their secrets to. But Teresa is the one in part 2 that everyone just wants to sit on front porch and drink a cup of tea with. And if you meet these individuals, they are pretty much the way I described them in the book. So now I have a problem. I can't kill my characters. How do you kill a character if it's a family or a friend? So will I continue writing and keeping, family and friends as characters? I don't know. So maybe it's a good thing that the literary agent wants us to do a series, several books about, on the subject, and introduce just maybe one new character with each new book that comes about. Speaking of my literary agent, I'll tell you, when I wrote the manuscript for Still Crazy, I went to several writers' conferences. Actually, while I was writing, I went to the conferences to see what they were all about. And when the manuscript was finished, I took the completed manuscript to the Unicorn for Writers Conference in Purchase, New York. There's where I met my literary agent, Jan Cardis. I handed her the manuscript on a Saturday. That Sunday was Easter Sunday. Monday morning, I get a phone call from Jan. She said, I read your manuscript. I read the entire story in one sitting. I laughed out loud, I cried, and I ran to the internet to look up a couple of things, and I learned so much by reading this book. I want you to come back to my house next Saturday, and I want you to meet my associate, Barbara Ellisucino. So I said, okay. Still, I didn't know. Is she signing me? Does she not like my story? Are they going to tear it apart? The following Saturday, I went to Jan's and I met with Barbara. We went to lunch. When we returned back to Jan's house, Jan wanted all three of us to sign a contract. So I signed with Black Hawk Literary Agency right then and there. Because I related to Jan, I related to Barbara. I liked them. I liked the fact that they read my story and they loved it. Jan had one suggestion. She wanted me to rewrite the entire script from third person to first person. And I did. It took me about a year, but I rewrote the entire story from third person to first person. Jan said she wanted it to come from Julie. She wanted to hear her emotions. She wanted the story to resonate, the pain that Julie felt. And so I took the challenge and I rewrote the story. Then when it came time to submit the manuscript to publishers, and of course we started with the top 5 in New York City. We submitted to those publishers, and then we submitted to a couple other ones. I said, by this time, I'm working with the 2 girls, the 2 women, for a complete year. So I know them, they know me, they know the attachment that I have to the story. Every word in there was equally as important to me. So I said, I have one request. Can I pick the editors out? So with each publishing house, I got to look at the list of editors that work there. Of course, picking just those who were looking at my genre. And at the time, we thought it was maybe women's commercial fiction, but it really, truly, it's women's contemporary fiction with a hint of romance. So I looked at the editors, excuse me, and I got to hand select the editors that I thought that I could relate to, work with, or that I wanted to work with. I wanted those personalities that really honestly that weren't going to look down upon me. I wanted them to see me as a storyteller, a writer. So I did. So I gave them my list with each and every publishing house. And I have to say, I am so glad that I got to hand select those editors. Did I get picked up by a big publishing house? No. But, and I hear this a lot of times, a lot of writers never hear from the editors. They never even give them a response. I have the most beautiful rejection letters I've ever seen. So, from words of encouragement to, just heartfelt words, where they, what parts of the story that they touched upon. They wished that they could have picked it up. They wished they could buy the story. And they say these things in their letters. And of course, some of them say, we sat at the table and we also have another writer, and of course, a big writer who's writing a similar story, maybe with a similar problem, or maybe there's an in that story, or she too has a baker in her story. And of course, they're going to give it to the James Pattersons. They're going to give it to Stephen King. He's going to get picked up that year and I'm not. So after about a couple of months of not getting picked up, not that I couldn't deal with the rejection, but I just felt like this story needed to be out into the world. And I just said, I don't want to submit anymore. I just want to self-publish. I did all the research that I had to do on marketing, advertising, sales, book promotion, everything that I needed to do. And I said, I just want to put the story out into the world. And Jan said, okay, whatever you want, we're going to do. Where do you want to start? And I said, when I was a little girl, I didn't go to bookstores. I hung out at the library. Can I take it to libraries? And here I am today, doing launches via libraries. And I am just so grateful to librarians out there. And as the librarians will tell you, librarians are reading it, they're recommending it, they're offering the book to their book clubs, and that's important to me. It's important to be recognized, yes, as a writer, but also that people are picking up the story. Let me just see if I can tell you, if I can just read to you what I wrote to those editors. Because they really did, they touched my heart. And I just, some people would say, oh, they just, they didn't want to pick the story up, or they couldn't pick the story up. But these editors, they really deserved it. So in the book, in the acknowledgement section, I wrote to the wonderful editors who took the time to read Black Book Literary Agency's submission of Still Crazy. I thank you for your time, consideration, encouragement, and kind words. My literary agent cried when she got to that part. I said, you didn't cry when I thanked you? She said, no. Your compassion to them really touched her heart. Yes, I also thanked, those people. And in fact, in the acknowledgement section, it says, in all likelihood, the idea for this book would be compared to jumping off a high bridge into shallow water. If not for all the love and support from my family, friends, book club members, my love and profound appreciation to each and every one of you for your loyalty and for being my book friend forever. A writer is no one without her fans. So without the book clubs, without the libraries, without your street team, friends, and yes, family. But how many family members can you say, buy the book? If somebody's birthday and they call up and they say, happy birthday, and say, oh, thank you so much, but did you buy my book? Merry Christmas to you too, but did you buy my book? You can only do that just so long before you have to, start reaching out, start branching out. And that's what I did when I started my street team. I have a street team all across America. So if you'd like to join my street team, you're more than welcome to. I have a book club in every single state in the United States. I am also in 7 different countries with my book club. Let's see, what else do we have? Lots of marketing, lots of advertising, basically to do whatever I needed to do to get this story into the hands of readers. It's important. It's very important, for people to see. I'm a creative thinker and I'm a believer of positive thoughts. And I just hoping, that I can inspire other women to pick up the pen, to start writing, even if it's just a little book. I mean, this little book here is 130 pages, but it's thought-provoking, and it's enough. It was enough to jumpstart my writing career. On Goodreads, there's over 14,000 people have selected Still Crazy to put in their want to read list. The book is only a month old. It's not even, 2 months old yet. So I think those are pretty darn good numbers. My Facebook account went from a couple hundred followers to almost 10,000 followers. I offer many giveaways, on Facebook. And yeah, I share the story. I share the story of these women. Still Crazy is about not just one woman, but about several different women. And again, I say, the story can be related to, from the steps of the White House to backcountry roads. A lot of women walk in Julie Holliday's shoes. And I wanted their story to be out there. I wanted it to be told. I want everyone to know that, these women, that you're not alone. I just recently received a wonderful letter from one woman who said, you wrote my story. Honestly, you wrote it profoundly. I can relate to every single chapter. It's as if you and I sat down, had a cup of tea, and I told you my backstory and you put it down on paper. So you have from those women to a young woman who said, nope, I don't understand. I have no idea why. I just cannot relate. And that's okay. It's not a story for everyone. Still Crazy is hard truths. It's a story about a strong woman who discovers a note, and that note has the power to either break her or make her. And what she does from chapter 1 to the end of part 1 is hard. It's hard. They're hard facts. But when you get into part 2 and you start to see her come to life, to spread her wings, you know, almost like a butterfly. You know, she's born again and she just keeps moving forward. You know, you hand this woman a negative, she's going to come back at you with 3 positives. And that's a beautiful thing in Still Crazy. Each of the characters are a little different. Lene is just the opposite of Julie. Julie Holliday is, you know, she's a strong, she's a passionate woman who is always looking for the good, but she doesn't open up. She's very quiet. As toward Lene, she's a fireball. She'll come at you with everything she has every single time. And, you know, she's one of those characters that she doesn't care what you say. She doesn't care what you think. She's going to tell you what she thinks, and then she's going to walk away. So they're total opposite. So to see these 2 women in part 1 of the story clash on a daily basis, it's a little hysterical, but it's interesting. It's fun. They're fun characters to watch as they go through life together. And then when you get into part 2, Julie actually befriends a new person called Teresa. And even though they didn't grow up together, they don't really know each other's backstories. They both have their own quietness about them. So they share warm, comfortable cups of tea together, sometimes mostly on a daily basis, sometimes. And they share their love for life, for the gardens, you know, for which tea they're drinking, which book are they reading. So different character in a different way pulls out different dramas from Julie, because Teresa, just like Lene, isn't going to let Julie go without knowing. So in a very, you know, soft and gingerly way, she pulls the story, you know, Julie's backstory out of her, because she's determined that she's going to be the person who's going to help her, you know, to get through this. And then I introduce you to another character who is Frank, who comes. He's much older. He's Southern, very wise, someone that Julie just looks to for advice. And he's good. And in the end, he's actually her savior. And that's all I can say about that. But I do hope that people enjoy reading it. You know, like I said, on Goodreads, there's, I want to say, well over 100 reviews already. And I'm told that these are all great numbers for Goodreads. You know, libraries are, you know, ordering it. People are checking the book out. So it's a good thing. It's a beautiful thing that people are discovering Julie Holliday, and they're realizing, you know, for the women who walked in Julie Holliday's shoes, that she's not alone. And that strong women, they survive. And that's what Julie Holliday is. She is a survivor. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Hi, Judy. This is Josh.
Yes.
So I've been monitoring our Facebook comment section, and it looks like 2 individuals have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
So both of them are both Jessica. So we have Jessica L and Jessica A.
Okay.
Jessica L, her first question is, how are your are your characters based on real people? And I know you explained this in your presentation, but would you like to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure, just in case maybe she joined in late or something, but yeah, they are. For me, as a new writer, I needed to see their faces and I needed to know, how they were going to react. But seeing their faces was most important to me, so I could actually picture my characters. So yes, all except the first two characters, the antagonist and protagonist, they're all either family or friends of mine or good acquaintances of mine in the book. So yeah, I do use real characters.
All right, sweet. So I guess we'll go ahead and continue with Jessica L's questions.
Okay.
Her second question is, how much research do you do to prepare for a novel?
A lot, a lot. Gonna say anywhere from 3 to 6 months worth of research prior to writing the story. And I say that because of, building the characters, the character development, where are they going to go? Because every single character has to have a problem. What is their life, about? So from writing down the character structure to the plots, to the scenes, and then researching the scenes. In the book is a bakery. I've never owned a bakery. So of course, researching bakeries, what items are popular, what was new this year, the year that I'm writing the story. And yeah, all of that needs to be researched. And the only way to do it is to sit down at the laptop and discover, and for every chapter that I wrote, I had to know, what characters are in it, where are they at, and, describing each and every scene. So yeah, even researching, what clothes and everything. So all of that should be done prior to writing. So again, it takes me about 6 months to do my research so far.
All right, moving on to Jessica's third question. How
Mhm.
long did it take you to write Still Crazy?
It took me a little over a year. I'm going to say probably about 15 months to write the first manuscript. And then when I had to rewrite it from third person to first person, that took me just under 12 months to rewrite the entire manuscript.
And I have Jessica's last question here. You mentioned a teacher inspired you to write when you were a teenager. What inspired you to write Still Crazy?
A lot of women that I know, personally. Again, they're strong, they're real women. So the story is inspired by, and I say a true love story, but really it's multiple women. For instance, in the first couple of chapters, in my mind, I'm imagining or picturing woman number one. But then there are some parts going into maybe chapters 5 through 8 where yet I know that this is what this woman did or would have done. And then in the end, it's kind of all of their story because they all could have had the same ending. So it's the women out there who inspired me. It's real women inspired me.
Thank you for Jessica L's questions. We're going to go ahead and move on to Jessica A.
Okay.
And her first question is on your character worksheet. Did you have a pre-made one that you worked from, or did you make your own and it developed and grew on its own?
I developed my own, and I created a lot of my own worksheets. Some of the ideas that I got from, of course, internet, from research, and I would like pick and choose, which part of it and stuff. And actually, I'm more than willing to share anything that I have with anyone. If there's any inspiring writers out there, I'm willing to share my worksheets with you, from, scenes to plots to character development sheets. No, I did it myself. The other thing I did for each chapter was, if a character is introduced, is what is their first line in the chapter and what is the last line that they said in that chapter. And that kind of helped me to flow with the following chapters as to know where this person is going throughout the story. But no, I designed all of my worksheets myself.
Sweet. So Jessica A's second question is, how would you handle a writer's block?
I sit down at the laptop. I don't allow it. And I'll tell you, Danielle Steele, years and years ago, because of course, growing up, I grew up with Danielle Steele. And every 6 months, you'll see her on Good Morning America. And she always, says the same thing. And she has like numerous children. I'm talking like anywhere from 7 to 10 children. She also has various husbands. But anyway, she says, I write 7 days a week. It doesn't matter if it's a birthday, if it's Christmas, I sign up to write every single day. And it's discipline. And that would be my advice to all writers. You have to be disciplined. I come to this writing studio every single day at 7 o'clock, and I don't quit until 3 o'clock. If I'm looking at writer's block, then I'll go back and I'll reread. And if you reread what you wrote the day before, a lot of times you're inspired to continue with it, to go with it. For me, my muse, my writing time is definitely early in the morning. And that's probably why I get here at 7 o'clock in the morning. That's when I'm most inspired to write, is early in the morning. But rereading what I wrote the day before, it does kind of give you a nudge to keep going. And thank God, I don't have writer's block. Do I have interruptions? Yes, where life interrupts you. And those are okay, especially for young mothers who have children. And they say, but, how am I going to write if I have young children? Well, my answer to that would be, you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you sit in the closet and you do what you have to do, if that's what it takes. If you want to become a writer, don't allow writer's block. Sit there, make yourself write. Every single day, report to that, just like you're reporting to a job. I mean, if you want to be a writer, every single day, you have to report to that laptop. If you write 1,000 words a day, that's only like a page and a half. After 90 days, you have a 90-word manuscript. That's a complete book. That's a complete novel. So give it 90 days. Anybody can do 90 days. Right. Every single day, you won't have writer's block.
Thank you for that. And Jessica A's third question is, can you mention where the proceeds of your sales go to?
The proceeds for the book, Be Strong Enough, that is the one where 100% of my net proceeds go. I can. It actually goes into a separate fund that I control. So you're going to have to take my word on it. But I do have testimonies from several women. The first woman that the Be Strong Enough, what I call foundation, reached out to was a battered woman, named Laura. She was actually here in my home state, New York. She was abused by not only her husband, but her daughter, physically and mentally abused. Reached out to me after she actually bought a copy of the book, reached out to me, and she is the one who inspired me to start the fund. I picked her up with whatever belongings we could throw in the back of my car. I took her to a safe house. About a year later, she was actually transported back to her home state of California. And just not even a month ago, Laura finally let me know that she's no longer in safe house. She's actually in her very own 1-bedroom apartment. She is happy, she is safe, and she is secure. Most recently, a young girl I saw on Facebook was crying out that she did not have any presents for her 2 children. She had 2 little girls. She was all by herself. And I just looked at the fund and said, how much money do I have in there? I sent her a private message, and I just said, tell me your home address. She did. And I said, meet me outside. I'm going to put this in your mailbox. And I actually gave her $350 to purchase presents for her 2 young daughters. You can see on my Facebook page that I love giveaways. For me, it's not about how much money is in the bank. It's how many hearts, how many people can I touch? And that's what Be Strong Enough does. It says to women everywhere, just be strong enough. You just have to be strong enough. You don't have to be stronger then whatever it is that's pulling you down, whatever it is that's stopping you, you just have to be strong enough. And those two women, especially, I mean, I have helped others in the past, but those two women especially, and I see it on their Facebook page all the time, where they post, "I'm strong enough," and different things, whatever storm blows their way, I can tell that when they write, "I'm stronger than this, I've got this." And that is really great satisfaction for me, is being able to help those other women. And so I hope that the women who pick up Still Crazy are inspired as well to live your best life, because that's what Julie Holliday does. She lives her best life. She's dealt with pain, she's dealt with betrayal, but she lives her best life. So it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling to help others, as you can imagine. So thank you, Jessica, for the great questions.
Jessica A's last question relates to Jessica L's first question.
Okay.
And that's, do you base your characters on people you meet or friends and family?
Most of them are people that I actually know. And, like I said, as a new writer, I wanted to see their faces, in different reactions. There's one scene in the beginning of Still Crazy where Julie, presents Lene with an offer. And me knowing Lene, who is actually a niece of mine, knowing what she would do, she took the paper and she just threw it on the floor. Because that's what Lene would do. She wouldn't even look at it. She would just throw it on the floor. That was important for me, to be able to show you, the reader, what each and every character, what are they like? And, they all should have their own little backstory. Each character should be a whole new, shining light in every single story. No one wants to read about, all the characters who are all, tall, blonde, and beautiful, because we're not. We're all different in our own way. So, yeah, so sitting down, I just said, she's going to be great for this part. This character is going to be great for this part. Most of my nieces, I did not have children. So a lot of my nieces, a lot of my nephews, more so my nieces, I'd say, not so much the nephews, have a big role in my book. And I get the phone calls, what role am I playing? What character am I? Or, I wanted to work here, or I wanted to do that, or how come I wasn't this? So I do have a little bit of that, but no, they're all happy. They're all very happy to be in the book, to be mentioned. It's not necessarily what they do for a living. I did, just take their name, their personality, and put them into the position that I needed them to be. And they were all fine with that. So, yeah. And, like I said earlier, with the bakery, I never owned a bakery. So that required a lot of research. But, writing about a bakery, you close your eyes. There's something about when you start baking bread, that's enough. Just close your eyes and imagine bread being baked in an oven. I mean, my ovens, were their own character, from the different cinnamon, so I threw lots of spices in there. I wanted everyone who was reading the story to be able to identify with not only every chapter, not only every paragraph, but with every single sentence that I wrote about. I'm hoping that the words come to life for everyone. Is my hope. It's my wish.
Thank you for that. I do have a comment from Jessica A after your response to where your proceeds for your book goes.
Mhm.
And she just would like to say that that is amazing. And thank you for all that you do, is what her comment says.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
So if anyone has any last minute questions for Judy, feel free to put it in the comment section down below. Her book, Still Crazy, is available through most major book outlets. We will have the book available for circulation in our library, hopefully by the end of this week. It is in the mail, so it's in the process of getting to us. But we will be putting it out, like I said, in circulation, so you're able to check it out through us. But it doesn't look like any other questions are coming in.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and wrap it up today.
Okay. The book is actually available in hard copy, paperback, ebook, and just now this week it's also available in audio. So, and I did make sure that the book was also available for audio for libraries. So you'll be able to, either or, for the book, be able to check it out at the library there. And again, I would be nowhere without my libraries. So I just thank you so much for it. And I look forward to, many other, working relationship with you. So, yeah. And I thank the two Jessicas for the questions. All great questions, but yeah. And if anyone would like to follow me on social media between Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Goodreads, you're more than welcome to. And again, on Facebook, it's Judy Prescott Marshall, and I host a giveaway every single week on Facebook. So I welcome both Jessicas to come along and follow us. So yeah, and in the back of the book is all of my also information as far as joining any of the book clubs that I have. If you'd like to join my book club in New Mexico, you just have to type in New Mexico book club, Be Strong Enough book club. Be Strong Enough is my logo. So yeah, Joshua, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you to our special guest author, Judy Prescott Marshall, for sharing her latest book, Still Crazy. The Octavia Fallon Public Library here in Gallatin, New Mexico, invites you to join us for both live and recorded presentations daily for Virtual Authors Festival during the entire month of May. You can find a full schedule by going to our website at ofpl.online. I will be putting our website address in the comment section down below, so that way you are able to find it. Please make sure to like and follow us on our Facebook and Instagram pages. All you have to do is just search for the Octavia Fallon Public Library. If you're not already, subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date on all of our library events and programming. On the behalf of the Octavia Fallon Public Library, thank you for watching, and we shall see you next time.
Great. Thank you so much. You have a great day.